I've often said many times, Kenny, that, people do not have a broad enough perspective to enjoy or to appreciate where they are in life, because they're constantly scratching for what they think they need and want, and don't take the time to enjoy what they actually have. You guys have to pay for elementary, middle school, for high school, and yet here in the States, so there's no government subsidies for education from elementary all the way up to high school?
When you get to high school, the government helps to pay, I think, half of your first 2 years. That was a program that was instituted. So I think first they were giving you $300 towards your school tuition for first and second year of high school. And then it dropped to $200 last I checked. And right now we're not sure if they're still doing it or not, because there's all kind of stuff going on with the government. No money, the country is broke, so we don't know if they're gonna still do that. People do have the opportunity to get scholarships, but for most of those, it's on a who you know basis and not what you know. So all the people who can afford to pay for school, but they're good friends with people who gives out scholarship, they still get the scholarship. And usually, the kids who really need it are not in a position to get it.
So I am a very big proponent in education, not even necessarily higher learning, but education, being able to expand your mind. So in Belize, you have to pay for elementary, middle school, and for high school. Okay. Here in the States, all of those things are free. Like you get elementary, middle school, and high school for free. Right, you get free. Now it's not free. Somebody's paying for it, of course, but there are educational opportunities for those in the States, free of charge. And this is not just in Belize that I know this to be true, but in Africa and Honduras and many other places that I've gone to, where they actually have to pay for school, not higher education as we do in the States for like colleges and postgraduate and all those other things, but school itself at a foundational level has to be paid for in a lot of these countries that I visit. And when I come over here to the States and we are offering education free of charge, and people are not taking advantage of those opportunities, I sound like a man, beating a drum. I'm like, what are you talking about? Why are you not going to school? Well, I don't want to go to school. It's because they actually have no vantage point of how valuable the opportunities that they have here in the States. What is the average salary of somebody in Belize or Gales Point? What's the average salary?
Well, Gales Point average salary is really low. I mean, some people are probably making, $200-300 a month.
Now, $200 to $300 a month. You're talking about Belizean, or is that U.S.?
That's Belize dollars in Gales Point.
Okay.
Cost of living in Gales Point is not as high as in the city or other places. When you look at the city, I would assume average salary is probably around 1,000 Belize dollars a month.
Okay, so 1,000 Belize dollars is 500 U.S.
Yeah.
So 300 Belize dollars is 150. So let's look at Gales Point. So Gales Point is making $150 US. School is how much on average? Let's say high school.
High school per year on average is about $600.
Okay, so if we're making $150 a month, $600 of that goes towards high school. There's a great financial distress that's going on in the village, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the education that is available that cannot be afforded, we have a whole lot of people that are not educated, right?
Yeah.
And do you see the results of that not having education playing out in the villages of Gales Point?
Yeah, definitely. It's huge.
So how do you because I'm going somewhere here, Kenny, because we've seen these schools and as I've walked into the school at Gales Point, I remember this 2018, I saw a teacher that was that brother said, felt like, you know what, forget this, forget y'all. I'm on the first thing smoking out of this place. And I saw on this teacher's face an exasperated look that I haven't seen in a minute. And then I seen kids literally just getting up and walking out of class and walking home. Like in the middle of the teacher speaking, kid, I was vividly he gets up and walks out the class and starts walking home. How important is education in Gales Point? Is it because it's a financial liability, or they just don't see the value in it?
I think right now people are just not seeing the value in it. I mean, when I was a kid going to elementary school in Gales Point, we couldn't do half of the things these kids are doing today. You know, like they were still able to lash you at school, and parents not going to say nothing about it.
That means whoop you, by the way.
What they call it, corporal punishment.
Yeah, we call it getting your butt whooped. Teachers were able to put that wood to you. Okay, go on.
Yeah, so I feel like in my generation growing up, it was always stressed how important it was, to learn to read, to get an education, to learn how to do your math and stuff like that. I think like for these kids today, especially as we look at the village right now, most of the kids going to school, you could tell the families who really stress how important education is to their kid, because those kids are well behaved in school, they do their work, they're trying to get somewhere. But those families who are not stressing the importance of education, those are the kids who are giving trouble in class, those are the kids getting up, walking around, those are the kids showing up at school when they're ready and going home when they're ready, So
you got a degree, and tell the story, Kenny. You have chosen by God's will and by His providence to go and reinvest your time back into the community that you were born and raised in. But God has allowed you to have a degree that you could be doing other things with.
Yeah.
So talk about that process of you being led by God with a degree in an area where degrees are not common, to where you could raise your standard of living exponentially and, get out of the hood and do some other things. God has called you back to that community to serve in a pastoral capacity. Talk about how that came about and why are you vested in Gales Point?
So everything that's going on is completely a move of God. Growing up, it was the religious thing for people to go to church on Sunday. So everybody was almost always at church at some point, until you get old enough and you decide, I don't want to go to church on Sunday. But it was never in any of my plans to be involved in church more than just going and sitting in the pews. Never have I ever thought of, even helping out at church. Those were never in my plans. I was supposed to be the kid who was smart, who would get a degree, graduate, be somebody, and be able to help out financially, But in 2007, 2008, that's when I met David Stockton. He's the senior pastor at Living Streams in Phoenix. And that's when life kind of started to shift for me, talking to him, being ministered to by him, getting involved in Bible studies and other stuff that I kind of saw as distance from me, but then it became closer to me, and he invested in me. He left, another guy came. And this was the crazy part when the second guy came, Mike Pfeiffer. Because before David left, he said, I think you're going to like Mike. He's a little crazy, right? And I didn't give that much thought. And then when Mike came, Mike was like, hey, I'm going to have you start to preach on Sunday. And then I'm thinking, so David was right. This guy is crazy, because me preaching where? Dude, I'm content just hanging out here and hanging with you guys. I don't want to do anything with this church thing. And lo and behold, I was going on my second year of marine science and biology in university when he came and told me that, And slowly but surely, all those pieces began to fit together. I hung out with him some more. He started to teach me more stuff about the Bible and about God and how to prepare a message and how to do all these things. And before I knew it, I was preaching my first service on a Sunday morning. Of course, for a lot of people, they were looking at it like something has to be wrong. You've been going to school, you got a degree, you should be making a lot of money. Why would you just come back and sit here in this community with your local people preaching at church? People were thinking, these, for a lack of a better word, white people must be paying you a lot of money to do this, because it makes no sense for you to have a degree in a field where it's blooming and to just leave that right there and come and preach to us here. That the church was kind of like in its rebuilding phase. There were maybe 10 or 12 people coming to church steadily on a Sunday. So it made no sense to the people. And at that time, when I first started out, young, single, have no bills, nothing, I was getting $100 a week support. That's 100 Belize, so 50 US a week support was what I was, living on to do that, which is even more reason for people to say this makes no sense, But that is honestly where I felt like the Holy Spirit was calling me to, like it wasn't calling me to go out, get a job, work out there, drive back home on Sunday and preach. It was calling me to invest time, talent, and treasure into the life of the people of Gales Point.